Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, guys, to another week of our Fall Obsession podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. I am Sam Thrash with Fall Obsession, and I'll be hosting you guys again for this week's episode. And joining me today, I'm excited to be sitting in person with a very good friend of mine outside of just hunting and Fall Obsession, and that is Mr. Kelley Cato. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Happy to have you on board. I know we've had some mutual friends on here recently, or I say recently in the past. It's been a spell now, but Waylon Langford, Chance Nelms, Brody Aiken, those guys have all joined us, and I think Chance has actually told us that on the podcast, he said we need to have you on to talk about this hunt that we're going to talk about here today. So
awesome. Those are good guys. I love them.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, and I'm glad we were finally able to make it happen. So
yeah, me too.
So I'm gonna let you kind of just introduce yourself for our listeners here briefly at the beginning, and kind of lead into the hunt that we're going to talk about here this afternoon.
All right, like you said, I'm Kelley Cato. I'm a firefighter and a lifetime hunter. Did most of my hunting was done with archery, so this was kind of a new thing, sorta.
What the hunt we're going to talk about is a rather unique opportunity.
Absolutely, a chance in a lifetime.
Yeah, a chance in a lifetime for sure. And we're talking about a Texas Desert Bighorn hunt right here, which are not very common.
Rare.
Normally very expensive, from my understanding. Expensive enough that I've never looked into it, at least. So, but you, I believe you told me before, back in 2004 is when this took place. You had the opportunity to go on a hunt like this.
I did. I was very fortunate. And you want me to just tell you how it came about?
Yeah, that we'll kick off the conversation and just talk about, how this opportunity even happened in the first place.
Yeah. So I was working my part-time job. I was teaching paramedic school, and I came home for lunch, and I had a missed call from Texas Parks and Wildlife on my answering machine. That was back before everybody carried cell phones or not, I guess. But yeah, Texas Parks and Wildlife called me. I believe it was Mike Pittman with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and called and just said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about your hunting license," is what he said. And I was like, man, what in the world could there be a problem with my hunting license? I was trying to remember when this was. I'm thinking it was October-ish, maybe September-ish. Well, it was obviously after you buy your hunting license, right?
Right.
So the first thing I did is I called Waylon, my hunting buddy, and I called him. I said, "Man, did you get a phone call about your hunting license? Because that's kind of weird, Nobody ever just gets a phone call about your hunting license. It just doesn't happen, And he said, "No, that's weird." I said, "Dang, I hope hope there's not an issue or something,
Right.
And he said, "Oh, you probably won something knowing you." I said, "Well, I doubt that." So, and I told him then. I said, "Well, if I did, I guess we're going hunting." And we kind of laughed about it. It was just a joke.
Yeah.
And so I called the guy back, and he said, "All right." He said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Man, I'm really a little nervous. What's going on?" And he said, "Well, I just wanted to let you know that you've been drawn for a Texas Bighorn tag. We're going to give you a Texas Bighorn tag."
Wow.
And I'll tell you how naive I was. I said, "Man, I really appreciate you, but I don't have any bighorns on my property." I said, so if you'd like to give that tag to somebody who has some bighorns on their property,
Yeah.
you know, I'm more up in near the Panhandle, and I don't. We have some deer and pigs and turkeys and stuff, but we don't have any bighorns out there. And he laughed. He said, "No, sir." He said, "This is a 5-day guided backpack hunt." And I was still kind of like, man, who is it? Because, you know, being a fireman, there's no telling what kind of jokes people are playing on you.
Oh, yeah.
So
Who's messing with me? Yeah.
I still wasn't all the way, like, convinced, you know. And he said, I said, well, exactly how did I buy that? How did I win this? Because I didn't buy any of those tickets that year, you know. And that's what makes it even more rare is I didn't even buy a ticket for this thing, you know. So, he said, this year, in order to bring awareness to the Texas Bighorn, you know, cause or whatever, we're going to draw 2 names. We drew your name first, and we drew another guy's name. I was like, okay, well, all right. So I said, well, how many people are in there? And he said, it's almost 1 million people in Texas.
No kidding.
So it's truly like a 1 in a million shot.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I could not believe it. I mean, I'm getting chills just telling you. And I was just super excited, but I was like, man, I don't know anything about Desert Bighorn. And so he said, all right, well, somebody will reach out and get in touch with you. And, well, you need to decide. You need to decide where you want to go, because they hunt Elephant Mountain Wildlife Management Area and the Sierra Diablo Mountain Range and Black Gap. And this year they were going to be hunting at the Sierra Diablo Mountains and Black Gap. So I asked him about the differences, and he told me like Black Gap was like the 4,000 foot elevation, and Sierra Diablo was 6,000 to 6,500 elevation, and he was just telling me, you know, I was just kind of picking his brain about what is the hunt like, you know.
Yeah.
And he said it's a guided backpack hunt. You'll have a wildlife biologist with you the whole time to make sure that, you know, that you shoot something, you know, that you're supposed to shoot and whatever, because they're very, very protected or whatever. So, but as he got to telling me about it, I gravitated towards the Sierra Diablos, because he was talking about how hard the hunt was and how there's more sheep in Black Gap, but there were better quality sheep in the Sierra Diablos.
Yeah.
But they were a lot harder to hunt, you know, and I wanted to get full experience of sheep hunting, you know, and I decided on the Sierra Diablos.
Gotcha.
And so, so I called Waylon, and they told me I could take one non-hunting companion.
Yeah.
Know? And so I had just talked to Waylon, like, and told him, hey, well, I guess if I win, I guess we're going hunting.
Yeah.
You know. But the guy told me, man, there's lots of elevation changes. It's lots of switchbacks. You know, he told me, you know, have some good shoes or whatever, but you need to go out and start running bleachers right now. So I did. I started running bleachers.
Yeah. So what did Waylon say when you called him back?
I think he thought I was joking too, because he kind of laughed and he was like, whatever, man. I said, no, I'm serious. I think this is legit. And he's like, no, somebody's messing with you. I said, man, I kept shooting holes in everything, and they had an answer for everything. And, you know, I think that this is legit. I really think it's legit. And I later found out that the second guy that was drawn was a Kerrville fireman.
Oh, really? No kidding.
So out of 1 million people, I don't know if we just have a whole lot of hunters who are firemen.
Well,
so our odds are better.
that's probably true, but yeah, 2 firemen get to go.
Yeah. So Jeremy Hughes out of Kerrville Fire Department, he drew the other one and got to go to Black Gap.
Awesome.
So, you know, and God has a way of, you know, I think he's a little older than me, and I was more physically fit and ready for that kind of challenge.
Yeah.
But he went and had a great hunt.
Awesome.
all that. So we kept in touch and became friends, and then we got to meet like 10 years later at a class we were both at. So
Oh, cool.
Maybe longer than that, maybe 15 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you find out, okay, this is a legit thing.
Yeah.
I do actually have this opportunity. You pick where you're going to go. What other kind of preparation went into getting ready for something like this? Because this is not obviously not something that happens often. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't know, like, you know, obviously the kind of hunting that I did was heavily wooded areas, bow stands, you know, archery, and not that you can't hunt bighorn sheep, but I was not going to waste a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah.
So one of the first things I did, I called Scott Funderburg, who we also work with.
Yeah.
And he was instrumental on getting me on the right path. I called him. I said, "Hey, you ever heard of bighorn sheep?" He said, "You know what? I'm a member of Texas Bighorn Society." I was like, you know, of course you are. Of course you are. Of course you're a member of Texas Bighorn Society. And so that's a group of people who back, I believe the society was created back in the 80s, and they've just been instrumental on taking the lead in protecting these and trying to reintroduce them into our state and kind of grow that program. They're a great bunch of people. They get together, I think, a couple times a year and have a work week or work weekend, you know. And so they go down there and they make, you know, water troughs or whatever, you know, just fix fences or whatever they do. But they pour a lot of time and effort into that. So if you get a chance, look up Texas Bighorn Society. They're a great organization. So Funderburg told me about that, Scott did, and he couldn't believe it. He said, "Man, do you know that, like, you have no idea the rarity of what just happened?" I was like, "Well, you know, it's a sheep tag. You know, I go in Cabela's, I see sheep all the time. I see, you know, go in anybody's trophy room, they have a sheep." And he said, "Man, this is a desert bighorn sheep." And I still didn't grasp it. He said, "Let me tell you," he said, "last year they sold one tag, and they sold it for $107,000.
Oh my word!
For one tag."
Wow.
And so that's when I was kind of like, "Hey, this is a for real deal. Like, this is legit."
Yeah.
That's when I thought, you know what, I don't want to waste this opportunity.
Yeah.
So my free hunt cost me a lot of money.
Getting ready for you.
Yes. And it was great because I could tell my wife, "Hey, it's cheaper than $107,000, right? If I can keep it down low." So, yeah, you know, new boots, and you know, because that was a big thing. He said, "You want Vibram soles?" He said, "You're gonna be putting lots of miles on."
Yeah.
And so, like I said, we went out, we ran stairs, and we were ready for the grueling part of it.
Yeah.
And then all the shopping and stuff. And we called Bighorn Society. We called, evidently here in Denton, there's a guy, Tommy Carruthers, I think is his name. I think he's a big sheep hunter, and he kind of told me some stuff about them. And, you know, so did a lot of research. And you know, it's been a long time now. It's been since 2004 since I was like actively researching it. Mm-hmm. But it seems like my ram that I shot was like the 20 something. There'd been 20 rams legally taken in the state of Texas since the 60s.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we got ready. We you know, we're in communication with them, and they said, "All right, this is gonna take place in November 2004," and so we didn't have a whole lot of time to get ready, but yeah, I read everything I could get my hands on and whatever, and I still did not appreciate I still didn't appreciate the difficulty of sheep hunting.
Right.
I could not believe it. So that's how I found out, and kind of the preparation part of it.
Gotcha. Well, very cool. So you get you get prepared, you get Waylon to go with you, and I'm sitting here in front of the table with us. You have a lot of just actual handwritten notes and a lot of cool stuff from this hunt, from this memory, which is really awesome. I don't think I've ever seen anybody have notes like this for a trip, and I guess you mentioned that Waylon was scribing for you basically throughout the course, and we were reading some of these earlier, and they're pretty entertaining. So.
When I was getting ready for this podcast, I was looking for the tag because I wanted to show you the tag because it's a unique tag.
Yeah.
And so I was going through and I found a folder that I had even forgotten that I had, and it had some of his notes in it, and it has the piece of paper that I was taking notes on the day that they called me and told me that I had won the ticket, and so yeah, it just kind of talks about what I'd need to bring. They told me I needed to bring a 270 at least, a flat shooting rifle, probably going to be around 200 yards, 200 to 250 yard shot. There's just bed rolls, desert camo. And then there's a note on here that says if you wound an animal, the hunt is over! ! So
pretty important there.
We're not interested in wounded animals.
Exactly. Yeah.
They did not want to play that game. So, and I wasn't intended on that anyway. But yeah. So and then Waylon was my scribe here. He took some funny notes. Just he was time, date, stamping everything, and telling us when we stopped for gas and how much gas was, and where we ate and where we stayed and all of that stuff. So
you can give us a couple of those more entertaining ones just to give folks an idea on what he's writing down here.
All right. So we're gonna depart on Tuesday, November 16th at 2004. At 8:30 a.m., the guide calls and says the hunt is delayed because of a stuck 18-wheeler in the road to camp. Now the road to camp was, when you left the pavement, it was a 3-hour drive.
Wow. When
you left the pavement. So when I read this, I was like, that's kind of odd, We're all the way in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and we've got to drive. The hunt's not till tomorrow.
Yeah.
They got time to get a truck unstuck. So that was at 8:30. And then at 9:30, he says, we're going anyway. We told the guide to have the truck unstuck by the time we got there. We're coming anyway. So, but I guess we had to stop at the fire station, too, so we could get our hepatitis shots. I don't think we needed that for the hunt. I think that was just
something else, some unrelated. Yeah. Wrote it down anyway.
We were very prepared for this hunt. You don't know if you're gonna get hepatitis out sheep hunting or not.
Hepatitis is strong out there with them Desert Bighorns.
So we're gonna get us a hepatitis shot that morning. So, oh yeah, he did a great job of documenting for the first day, just for the first drive down there. We drove 518 miles, I guess, because that's what he's got written down. Ended up staying at the Best Western for $62 a night, and lights out by 9 p.m.
Rest up, get ready.
That's right. So, good times.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we pulled into we pulled into Van Horn. That's where we met up. Got a hotel and got a good night's sleep. What little sleep we could get because we were so excited.
Yeah.
We'd been ready for this, and it was great. We got up that morning and had some breakfast, and it was kind of drizzling outside and just kind of cold and whatnot, but not too bad. And our guide, his name was Justin Foster, and he showed up to the hotel and introduced himself, and made sure we had all of everything that we needed or whatever. And And then we headed out like at 11:30 the next morning.
Awesome.
Headed out to the Bean Ranch. That's the people who let us hunt on their property it was the Bean Ranch.
So getting into it, like, because at this point we're out there, y'all are ready to hunt.
Yeah.
So let's dive in and talk about it, how this hunt went.
All right. So whenever we were driving out there, it was gorgeous, and this is an important part of the story too. Is I was snapping pictures, and I found these pictures to show you. This is the road going out there. It's a long drive, dirt roads, just
Wow.
rocky, rough, just rough country.
So 3 hours on this road.
On that road, 3
Wow.
hours on a gravel road it wasn't a real nice gravel road. But I was snapping pictures. We had a digital camera and was snapping pictures and of everything I could get a hold of. Just of cactus and mountains and hills, and everything was just so beautiful out there. I just couldn't believe it. So taking pictures of everything. We pull up to the camp. The camp house is located on the Bean Ranch, way out in the middle of nowhere, obviously. And there's some Texas Parks and Wildlife guys there already. And there's turkeys, and I'm taking pictures of the turkeys because, they're wild turkeys, and we're right here. And oh my gosh, I'm taking all these pictures of these turkeys. And I'm trying to be real quiet and have everybody else be quiet because, it's not every day you can get that close to turkeys. And then I found out that those turkeys were not as wild as I thought. They just came right up to us and sat on the picnic table with us, and sometimes we had to shoo them out of the bunkhouse. So I've got a lot of pictures of turkeys that I probably didn't need to take. So that day we pulled up and we unloaded, and it was just a big one room, just a metal building, bunkhouse, had a kitchenette in there and a bathroom and whatnot, and we would all sleep in there at the end of the day and come back there and have a fire and whatever, talk about what we saw. So that first day we got out there, in the afternoon. They were they did their due diligence to make sure that I was ready. They went through my stuff and, do you have this? Do you have this? Whatever. Let me see what kind of boots you got. Let me see, whatever.
Yeah.
They took me out to a range, made sure that I could shoot. Another funny thing is I told you I did most of my hunting with archery equipment at the time, so I wasn't really sure what kind of gun to take, and he told me a 270 would be good, and I talked to Scott Funderburg, and he had a 7mm mag that was dialed in, and he said, "Man, this is what you need." So I borrowed Scott Funderburg's gun to go because I couldn't talk my wife out of that on the $107,000 that I was saving her.
Yeah,
I couldn't talk her out of a new rifle, so so I borrowed a gun, which is really embarrassing, but I was glad Scott was there for me.
Hey, bow hunters gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, so I borrowed his rifle and went out there and shot, and I had spent some time behind that scope in preparation to make sure that I was being responsible or whatever. And,
yeah.
Shot a few times, I think 3 or 4 times, and they were spot on, and they knew that I could shoot, and they weren't really worried about it. So we did that night, and then we had a class. We had to take a class on this is what the difference between a ram and a ewe, like what they look like. This is the full curl and kind of how to age them, and they really went through the paces. Texas Parks and Wildlife did a great job. Clay Brewer and Mike Pittman and Justin Foster and I don't remember the other guys, but they did a great job of going through the class, because given an opportunity like this, you don't want to mess it up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so we took the class and took the test or whatever, and went through the sets and reps of identifying sheep and whatnot. And that evening we walked over to the edge of one of the canyons and just kind of sat and spotted and saw a bunch of mule deer and whatnot. That was really cool. And got to bed kind of early because we're going to hit it bright and early the next morning.
Yeah.
So in this bunkhouse, it was rows of bunk beds, right? So everybody slept on a bottom bunk, and their top bunk was like just for storage, where you would put your stuff. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, we've had a story about that bunk room on here before, so I'm sure that'll come up here in a little bit. So yeah.
Yes. So we had a great dinner, and got to bed early, and we got up early, and we hit the road. And so what it was it was Waylon and I, and they had told us, hey, look, there's bears and there's mountain lions, so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. Also, we at one point we saw elk, like real close. I wasn't expecting to see that down there, but saw elk down there. We had some hunters with us, some guys that were contracted by Texas Parks and Wildlife to hunt predators. They were predator hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And they had hunted that area a lot. I believe they worked for Texas Parks and Wildlife as predator control people.
Gotcha.
And so they were some spotters for us. And then Justin Foster went with Waylon and I, and man, we dropped off on one of those canyons, and we just hiked our asses off, up and down. So where we went, it's called Victoria Canyon, in the Sierra Diablo Mountain range, and it's a historic site in as far as in Texas, because that's the last place that there was an Indian battle in Texas.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so lots of canyons, hills, valleys, obviously the mountain range, but there was lots of caves and stuff. So evidently Victorio, the Apache that was running from the cavalry, he would use those valleys and stuff to run and hide or whatever, and lived in the caves and whatnot while they were eluding the cavalry. And so Justin Foster was the wildlife biologist in charge of that wildlife management area. So he knew a lot of that, where those caves were and whatnot, and it was really cool because he spent a lot of time out there.
Yeah.
And so he would sleep in those caves, or he had supplies stashed in different caves, in case of an emergency while he was out there by himself. And that was a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, you almost get a history lesson, for one, while you're out there, but two, and I mean, I can't speak to that environment specifically, but other places I've been, for sure, you learn the history about a place, and you're there at the same time, and it's almost like you step back in time.
It truly was. It was like a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Like it was truly, it was very neat.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Wow.
And you could see like the black walls where they had built their fires, and the smoke had discolored the inside of the cave or whatever. And then in several of the caves they had pictographs drawn. And that was really neat. You could see they had like pictures of bighorn sheep. They had like a ewe. I don't think I saw like a big full curl ram, but they would have pictures of the ewes, like little stick figure things with. It looked just like a ewe though. It was pretty cool.
Huh.
So we got to take pictures of that, which was really cool because after I killed my ram and got it back from the taxidermist, Waylon took it and went back and looked at some pictures of the pictographs, and thank goodness we had some of those.
Yeah.
And he recreated the inside. He made the back of my mount look like the caves, the same color, texture, and all that, and then drew the pictographs on there.
That is awesome.
So now every time I look at that thing, I can just be there again.
Yeah.
You know?
That's really cool.
Yeah. He's an artist like that.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. Yeah. We'll keep going. I don't want to jump ahead of myself.
So like I said, it was a 5-day guided backpack hunt, right? So we were going up and down some of this kind of just treacherous mountains, and
wow.
The Indians had we walked on the same switchbacks that the Indians had gone up and down, you know.
Trails that have been there for hundreds of years.
Yeah. They were some walking sons of guns, I tell you. We put a lot of miles on them. Those bleachers, they helped, but they didn't do it justice. Fully prepare you for what was about to happen. And so we hunted, and you know, one of the cool things, whenever I first saw my first ram, we were spotting, and the guide saw one, and he's like, okay, there they are. And I looked through the spotting scope, and I don't know, like, seemed like they were miles over there.
Really?
They were like a very, very long ways. And all you could see was little white butts where they were walking up the mountain.
Yeah.
And I was so surprised because he was like whispering, right? And I'm like, those things are like, I wish I could remember how far they were, but it was truly like a mile or something. It was a very long ways. And we would move, and the rocks would, and I swear they'd stop and turn around and look right at you. And I'm like, how are you going to shoot one of these? How people shoot them with archery equipment?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Crazy.
Yeah. They are so hypersensitive. They're way harder to hunt than deer, way harder to hunt than elk. Their senses are wicked crazy.
Wow.
And we couldn't make any noise, or they would see us and just keep walking. They were very safe from us for a while.
They had the full advantage.
Yes, they did. They had full advantage, and you know, you can't walk in there. Everything out there is trying to poke you or
kill you,
yeah. Fall down or something. Which I was just loving it, you know. And the guide actually, he got dehydrated while we were out there.
Oh, no kidding.
The first day, and got really bad Charlie horses and cramps and stuff, and was like laying on the ground. And you know, I was not planning on. I didn't have any IVs or anything. You know, I just stretched him out and you know just tried to keep him full of water. And this cat was super in shape. He knew the country. But it was just a grueling. It was a grueling hunt. But I had told him I wanted to feel every bit of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's do this. Like, this is once in a lifetime, truly.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to remember every stone I step on. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, so he did. But it was great because he...
Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you guys have been enjoying this podcast episode with Kelley so far about his Texas Bighorn hunt. Really, truly was, in my opinion, one of the best discussions I've had on this podcast. Our conversation went on actually for well over an hour, and when we were in the editing room on this one, we decided that we wanted to split it into 2 separate episodes. So this is the conclusion of part 1 of our Texas Bighorn series here on Fall Obsession Podcast. I encourage you guys to tune in again next Monday morning as we will talk with Kelley for the second half of this conversation. And guys, the second half is even better than the first half. So I truly encourage you guys to hit that follow and subscribe button and be sure that you catch next week's podcast episode, part 2 of our Texas Bighorn series. And if you guys haven't done it before, hit that follow and subscribe button so that you do get notified. We do publish new podcast episodes every single Monday morning. We don't want you guys to miss it because we got a lot of awesome content like this continuing to come your way. Make sure you follow us on social media, Fall Obsession on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Be sure you subscribe to our channel. We got weekly videos. Several times a week we're trying to post videos right now, whether it's gear reviews, hunting tactics, turkey hunting right now, with it being spring, all sorts of cool stuff coming your way with that. Go to our website, fallobsession.com. That's where the hub for all our content. You guys can find our videos, our reviews, wild game recipes, everything that we got. Our apparel's on there. You guys can shop. Fall Obsession gear. We do have a turkey call online right now that is actually marked down right now for sale, but you guys can probably still get it before turkey season's over in certain areas. So be sure you go check that out. T-shirts are $10 right now, trying to make room for some fall apparel lines. So go pick you up a Fall Obsession tee. And if you haven't gone to fallobsession.com/podcast, you can go there. That is not only where all of our episodes are listed, but there's also a form on there that you guys can fill out and provide feedback on our podcast. We'd love to hear what you guys think. If you have any topic or guest suggestions, you can throw them out there. And if you have a question you'd like us to address in a future episode, you can send it to us there as well. So appreciate you guys tuning in. And again, make sure you don't miss next Monday's episode, part 2 of our Texas Bighorn podcast series. We'll catch you guys then.